What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Cosmic Wonder. I'm your host, Warren Thompson, and I know a lot of you out there love to stay up to date on Spider-Man No Way Home. Well, recently, just a few days ago, it was revealed how Kevin Feige, the president of Marvel Studios, went over to Sony and got Spider-Man in the MCU. We're talking from Captain America Civil War to Spider-Man Homecoming to Spider-Man Far From Home to now in No Way Home, and hopefully, fingers crossed, the start of the true Spider-Verse. Not only did Kevin Feige go over to Sony and get Spider-Man in the MCU, but ultimately made it to where Spider-Man would severely shape the MCU's future. I mean, the hype right now for Spider-Man No Way Home is off the charts, and it's all due to Kevin Feige. Tobey Maguire showing up in No Way Home and Andrew Garfield showing up in No Way Home, hopefully, are all thanks to this story right here. And before we dive into the story, be sure to subscribe so you can stay up to date on the MCU and so you can enter our giveaway ending this month, giving away a Spider-Man figurine. This was provided by Sidekick Central. They're super awesome. Check them out on Instagram. All you got to do to enter is subscribe to my channel and Cosmic Culture. We'll link that down below. Now, this story is coming to us from a book that has just been released that is getting a lot of attention right now. That book is called The Story of Marvel Studios, The Making of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And in this book, it tells the story about how Marvel Studios got Spider-Man in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Because remember, at that point in time, Marvel Studios could not use Spider-Man in the MCU because they had zero rights. Plus, not to mention, Sony was making their own Spider-Man films at the time with Andrew Garfield. And they planned on making a Spider-Man 3 with Andrew Garfield still. However, we kind of have Kevin Feige to either thank or blame, depending on your views of the Amazing Spider-Man series, that we did not get that third film. Here's the story, according to this book, on how it all happened. So Sony had really big plans for the Amazing Spider-Man franchise with Andrew Garfield, and as a lot of people know, they were going to make a third one. However, this all changed the day Amy Pascal, a producer for Spider-Man, met with Kevin Feige. Sony wanted to do a lot with Spider-Man, however, the sequel, The Amazing Spider-Man 2, had just flopped. And they didn't really know what to do, and they were kind of in a panic, especially if you consider the fact that they had a lot of spin-off series in the Spider-Man universe happening. But at the same time, Kevin Feige and Marvel Studios are sitting over there crushing it with the MCU, like destroying the box offices, plus fans really love their movies. So after The Amazing Spider-Man 2, Sony decided that they want to do that. They want to be as big as the MCU. So Amy Pascal, a producer and chairperson over at Sony Motion Pictures Group, called over Kevin Feige. And here's the story, according to the book, on how everything went down. It says, with a good sense of how they would like to handle the character, Feige was ready for his lunch with Pascal. What he wasn't ready for was Pascal's reaction to his proposal. The meeting was in her office at Sony. As expected, Pascal wasted no time in expressing her strong desire to have Feige be more directly involved creatively in the making of Sony Pictures' The Amazing Spider-Man 3. Excited about the ideas her team currently had, Pascal said she would send Feige the latest draft. About halfway through the delicious sandwich that she had brought in, I said, "Amy, in all fairness, it's not gonna work," shares Kevin Feige. You see, what Amy Pascal didn't know is that Kevin Feige had plans and ideas of his own to go forward with Spider-Man, just not in Sony's universe. You see, what Amy Pascal did not know is that Kevin Feige actually had plans of his own for Spider-Man, just not in the Sony universe, in the MCU. So after Kevin Feige tells Amy Pascal, in all fairness, it's not gonna work, this is what he says. "We've sort of done that before, and I don't think I'm particularly helpful there." But Kevin Feige was not done. He had a counter-proposal. "The only way I know how to do anything is to just do it entirely. So why don't you let us do it? Don't think of it as two studios, and don't think of it as giving another studio back the rights. No change of hands of money. Just engage us to produce it. Just pretend it's like what DC did with Christopher Nolan. I'm not saying we're Nolan, but I am saying there's a production company that is doing this pretty well. Just engage the services of that production company to make the movie. And the production company he is obviously referring to is Marvel Studios, and it says here that Pascal was taken back. She was super surprised, and then she got upset. It says, "At first, I was super resentful," she admits. "I think I started crying and threw him out of my office, or threw a sandwich at him, I'm not sure which." Then she started to think it through. By the 5th Spider-Man movie, we weren't giving them anything new. And I have to be honest about it, we were trying so hard to be different. We even went into places to be different that we shouldn't have. We weren't fresh anymore. Pascal continues, "The lucky thing is, Kevin and I come from the same place in terms of how we love Peter. I've been working with Kevin on Spider-Man movies since Sam Raimi's. He would come to the meetings, get everybody coffee, and he never said a word for years, which makes you love somebody because then when they do open their mouth, you realize that they've been thinking all the big thoughts and are really smart, but never had to hear themselves talk." Pascal called Feige back the next day after their lunch. The concept of a collaboration between Sony and Marvel Studios had not left her mind. After hearing his specific thoughts on what to do with Spider-Man in the MCU, she admits, "The idea of putting him up against a world where everybody had everything and he had nothing was a whole new way of telling his story. I thought, gosh dang, that guy's smart." And yeah, he was, and he is really, really smart. He's the president of Marvel Studios, and I think everybody could probably agree that Spider-Man in the MCU is way better than anything that Sony could have produced on their own. Now, from there, Marvel Studios would sort of softly bring Spider-Man into the MCU, introducing him in Captain America Civil War briefly. Briefly, but super iconically. And also, it kind of makes you wonder, because a lot of us are wondering right now if they're going to show the other two Spider-Men, Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield, in the trailer. If you think back to the Civil War trailers, they actually showed Spider-Man. They showed his debut in the trailers before the movie, so there is definitely a possibility that they could do that for Tobey and Andrew. And of course, we know how it went. Civil War, Homecoming, Spider-Man Far From Home, and now Spider-Man No Way Home that could have more hype than Avengers Endgame. This movie has the potential to be the biggest movie of all time. If Andrew and Tobey are truly in it, this movie is going to destroy the box office. It's just simply going to be insane, and people are going to go back to the theaters and rewatch this over and over and over again. I think I watched Endgame like 10 times in the movie theater. I'll probably watch this movie more if Tobey and Andrew are in it, in which of course a lot of us are pretty dang sure. I've had insiders tell me that it's 100% sure a guaranteed thing, but of course we have to see. But Spider-Man actually really helped shape the MCU, obviously being one of the most popular characters of all time, if not the most popular character. Multiverse of Madness and the whole concept of the multiverse really shines when we're talking about Spider-Man because it opens the Spider-Verse. Even if the other two Spider-Man didn't come back, we still have the old villains from the other universes. This alone is enough for a ton of people to want to go see this movie. And they are. But that's the story of how Kevin Feige went over to Sony and got Spider-Man in the MCU. What a freaking legend. Thank you, Kevin Feige, and thank you, Sony, for doing what you thought was best for the character. Be sure to let me know all of your thoughts about this in the comments down below. And don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on any of the latest Spider-Man and MCU videos. For live updates, you can follow me on Instagram and Twitter, and now TikTok. And as always, thank you all so much for watching. Woof woof. Any of the latest Spider-Man and MCU videos. For live updates, you can follow me on Instagram and Twitter, and now TikTok. And as always, thank you all so much.
Thank you.